All right, the most common way of writing equations, which you may have seen before, is slope-intercept form. And what that looks like is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Okay, so the y-intercept, remember, is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Okay, and then slope, like we talked about last time. So first, really simple, we're just going to take this information and write an equation. So if I have a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of -1, my equation would be y equals mx, so my slope is 2x, and then plus b, my y-intercept is -1, so I'm just going to write -1 instead of plus -1, because that's messy. So you can just, if it's negative, we can just write minus the number. Okay, I'll do another one. Slope is -3/5, so y equals -3/5 x plus 4. Okay, so I want you to pause here. I want you to finish down this row up to number 6 and then come back and see if you have the right answers. Okay, so here's what you should have got. Two of the special ones that I want to talk about are 4 and 5. Okay, so here we have a slope of -1. So we have negative, I wrote -1x. Typically, we don't see it written this way. Typically, if the slope is 1, we just write it as x. So since it's -1, -x. Okay, this is not wrong, but this is the way you're going to see it written more often, and this is the way you're going to see it as an answer choice in a multiple choice situation. So I would get used to writing it this way. Okay, same thing here where we have a y-intercept of 0, right? Plus 0 doesn't change anything, so typically we just don't write it, right? So that equation would be y equals 1/4 x. Again, this is not wrong, but this is like the more common way of doing it. All right, next thing is being able to write an equation when given a graph. So we need to be able to look at this graph and pick out two pieces of information, m, which is the slope, and b, which is the y-intercept. So this is just what we did before. I'm going to start at this line. I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go over 1. So my slope is 3/1, or 3. And then my y-intercept is where the graph touches the y-axis. So that is, here's my y-axis right here, this point. So this is -1, 2, 3, 4, -4. So that means that my equation would be y equals 3x minus 4. Okay, you try this one real quick. Okay, slope -6/4 simplifies to -3/2, and then the y-intercept was 7, so we have y equals -3/2 x plus 7. Now we're going to skip ahead to the next page. We'll look at those examples some more in class. The other form that you need to know is called standard form. And so what that looks like is ax plus by equals c. So this is where we have x and y on the same side of the equation. And we need to be able to go back and forth between standard form and slope-intercept form. So here we have some equations that are in standard form, and we're going to change them into slope-intercept form by getting y by itself. So this is those literal equations that we did last unit where we have to solve for y. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 2x from both sides. Okay, so now over here, I have y equals, and usually we would write this as 3 minus 2x. However, I'm going to flip this around and write it as -2x plus 3. The reason I'm going to do that is slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, so we have the x term first. So I'm going to flip this around so that I have the x term first. And then now y is by itself, and that would be my equation in standard form. All right, so let's do another one. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Okay, so that leaves me with 5y over here. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and write the x term first, -4x, and then it was -30, so minus 30. Okay, and now, because this y is not by itself yet, I need to divide by 5, and I'm going to divide each term by 5. So I get y equals -4/5 is already simplified, so that would be -4/5 x. -30 divided by 5 is -6, and that would be my equation in slope-intercept form. Then the last thing we're going to look at is having a graph and being able to pick out the standard form equation. So what I would do, I would look at this graph and let's write it in slope-intercept form first because that's easier. So they didn't draw any points, so I'm going to pick ones. I'm looking for ones that are exactly on the corner. So this goes up 1 over 1, 2, 3. So that gives me a slope of 1/3. Okay, and then this is the y-intercept right here, and that is at -2. So my equation in slope-intercept form would be y equals 1/3 x minus 2. Okay, now to get the standard form, I'm going to show you two ways, and then you can pick which way you like the best. Okay, the first way is just to take each of these equations and change them into slope-intercept form and see which one matches. Okay, so if I have x plus 3y, I would subtract x from both sides. That would leave me with 3y equals -x minus 6, and then I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3, and so I would have y equals -1/3 x minus 2. All right, that's -1/3. I want +1/3, so it can't be A. Okay, the other way is we can take this slope-intercept form, slope-intercept form, and we can change it into standard form. And the way we can do that is, first thing I have to do is I have to get rid of this fraction. And the way that I get rid of the fraction is by multiplying by the denominator, or the number that's on the bottom. Okay, and I have to do that on both sides. So now over here I have 3y equals 1/3 x times 3. 1/3 times 3 is 1, so that just leaves me with x. And then -2 times 3 is -6. And then to get this into standard form, I need to move the x over, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So I have -x plus 3y equals -6. And then if I look at my answer choices, which one does that match? Well, it doesn't match any of them exactly, but here this is +x, -3. I have -x, +3. +6, -6, so it's basically the opposite. So it looks like they went through and multiplied everything by -1 so that they didn't have that -x in front. I don't know really why they did that, but then that would make B the answer. So if you do it this way, you have to change every answer choice, all 4 of them, over to slope-intercept form to see which one matches. If you do it this way, you got to do a little bit more algebra. It's totally up to you. Again, I'll show you both. We'll practice both in class, and then you can pick the one that makes the most sense to your brain. All right, and that is it for 4.2.